Welcome to the Startup of the Year podcast, where each episode we showcase exciting new companies from around the world. This podcast is produced by Established, creators of the Startup of the Year program. Established is focused on helping organizations with their innovation, startup, and communication strategies. Thank you to our podcast sponsor, Silicon Valley Bank.
Hello, everybody. It's Frank Gruber, and we got the Startup of the Year podcast. We're back again, episode 16. Today's another special episode. We've got a great interview today lined up with Elnaz Sarraf. She's the founder of and CEO of ROYBI, which is a startup that was basically one of our Startup of the Year companies in 2018. And she's been doing great things since. ROYBI is like an AI-powered companion robot for kids, years like 3 to 7. And really focuses on STEM learning. So really exciting stuff going on with her. We had John Guidos from our team interview her, and we'll listen into that in a second. But before we do, I wanted to hear a word from our sponsor, Silicon Valley Bank. Can you give it up for Mr. Rich Malloy? Rich.
Absolutely. So today's episode of the Startup of the Year podcast is brought to you by Silicon Valley Bank. And the team at Established, we've been building startup communities for 13 years. And Silicon Valley Bank consistently shows up, adds value, supports startups, and supports their clients. They're more than just bankers. They're mentors, they're advisors, they're super connectors. And we love having the SVB team at our events because they bring a depth of knowledge about startup markets that just doesn't exist from most service providers. And they always treat their founders with respect. And so if you're not banking with Silicon Valley, if you're using, say, a traditional retail bank like the one on the corner, there's nothing wrong with those banks. But if you're using that, a traditional retail bank, and you plan to raise venture capital, you need to bank with SVB. Your retail banker might not even know what the heck venture capital is, but SVB team does this day in and day out. This is their specialty. They've been through the fundraising process with thousands of startups, and they have additional resources to see you through the process and help you succeed. We love SVB, and we're grateful that they're supporting the Startup of the Year podcast. And so visit svb.com/next to learn more. That's svb.com/next. So Silicon Valley Bank, ideas bank here.
Thanks so much, Rich. Couldn't do it without the support of SVB, so we really appreciate it. All right, now let's listen to that interview with Elnaz Sarraf and John Guidos.
Hi, everyone. This is John Guidos with Startup of the Year podcast. I'm happy to be joined today on this episode with Elnaz Sarraf, the founder and CEO of ROYBI and ROYBI Robot. Hi, Elnaz. How are you today?
Hi, John. Thank you very much for your time. I'm really excited to talk with you today.
Yes, we were very excited that you made some time for us. And I know that you were a participant in our Startup of the Year program in 2018. And I know that, just following you all in the news and from your updates, it looks like you have a lot of great stuff going on. So I'm excited to talk with you, and I'm sure our listeners will probably gain a lot from our conversation as well. But anyways, let's start off. Can you tell me a little bit about ROYBI and everything you guys have going on over there?
Sure, absolutely. As you mentioned, we were part of the semifinalists in 2018, and it was such an amazing experience. I still remember because at that time, ROYBI was so little, and since then we grew pretty fast. Now we have our headquarters in the U.S., in Mountain View, California, in Shenzhen. Very soon, we are starting our headquarters in Hong Kong. Which is super, super exciting. From literally like 2 people, now we are close to 20 people in onboarding a couple of new people very soon. And how we started is that, we started about 2 years ago, going through a lot of research that we've done in the past through my first company, especially. That we have baby monitors. So I dealt with parents a lot. And education was always something that they would talk about. And it's an amazing market. There's a lot of opportunities to make an impact. And 2 years ago, my team and I started ROYBI. And as you can imagine, as a startup start, the idea was totally different. And since then, a lot of things changed. And today, we launched a product, which is an smart robot, AI-powered robot in language learning and STEM for kids aged 3 to 7.
It's amazing. I'll tell you, I've been watching the videos myself, and I could not think of something cooler, and I would have loved to have had one when I was younger. And at some point here in the very near future, I'm definitely going to get some for my nephews because they're kind of in that 3 to 7 year old age range. And I know that, it'd be something that they would think is really cool. And additionally, it would provide some of those foundational things to help them grow in with their education as they get a little bit older. But I also wanted to say I saw that you're being very modest, which is and humble, which is great. But you had said you guys are growing, and I noticed also that you all were recently named CNBC's World's Most Promising Startup. So that's amazing. How did that all come about?
Thank you. Honestly, I think, I wouldn't say being lucky because luck means hard work. But we were so excited when the news published. But I don't know if you saw it, but about a few days ago, ROYBI was featured on the cover of Time magazine as one of the best inventions of the year.
Wow.
So when that happened, we were totally shocked. And it was amazing because, we've been working so hard for the past 2 years, making sure, especially with the hardware business, it's so complicated. And the product itself is also a little bit complicated because it has many technology inside it, from facial detection to emotion detection, personalizing the educational experience with machine learning. So there's a lot going on, and being able to really spread the word and getting the traction from really large media, I'd say it was amazing.
Sure, it always creates some very larger conversations, I'm sure. So that's amazing. Congrats on all of that. And another thing that I think is interesting about your story is I know that you're a female founder that grew up in Iran. So maybe you can, hopefully I'm right on that one. And if so, how do you think that played a part in your leadership and you as an entrepreneur?
You're definitely right. It's an interesting question because I think, back in Iran, all I remember is a lot of people work really hard, and so many smart people, but unfortunately not a lot of opportunities. And I remember growing up, I used to spend a lot of time reading at school behind a computer. I always joke I was a nerd because I would spend a lot of time behind a computer. I would enjoy assembling things. And then I got into art school. So it really helped me to have a better understanding about products and even features on the products. And then I decided to switch to software engineering. And that also really, really helped me to understand how you can bring a product to the world. And I'd say, within the culture that I can see, I'm sure it's the same with so many other cultures. But particularly, with Iranians and Persians, I see that a lot of us are really hardworking and really persistent. So I think that played really well.
I'm sure. No, it sounds like it would definitely help out when you're leading a team. And, that competitive edge and work ethic is always so instrumental in growing a company. So, continued success with that. And so I want to understand a little bit more about the concept. I know you were in the education space before, but, what brought about the idea for these AI-backed or, artificial intelligence robots?
Sure. Back in the days, I was always involved with technology. It just fascinates me how fast technology is changing. But, AI is a very important trend that it's the future of so many amazing things happening. But when it comes to education, as you can see, there are no good products or use cases specifically when it comes to early childhood education. And as I mentioned, for many, many years, I had the opportunity to talk and work with a lot of parents. And I realized that this age range, especially 3 to 7, which is a very critical time, it's missing a lot of opportunities. And that's why we started our focus on product and technology in this category to be able to really help children to get better education. Especially 1 out of 12 kids, at least in the US, are experiencing some sort of speech disorder. Because, these days they're literally glued to devices like tablet, phone, or TV. They don't talk much. They don't learn much from those devices. But also there are no good replacements. And we really believe with ROYBI, we would be able to utilize AI and make the experience more interesting for children as we learn about them. So we can modify and adjust the content based on their abilities and interests. Of course, it's a big vision, but gradually we will get there.
Well, that's really great. So let me ask you, I guess, taking that a step further, just for my own interest, and I'm curious to understand, what is the biggest hurdle that you all are experiencing or have solved for? I can't even imagine, how do you get one of these in every kid's house or school or whatever? What does that look like?
I think it's more about, one difficulty is, still people think AI is going to take over the world or control their children. And still, I see negative thinking behind it. But I think the biggest challenge right now is to gradually educate people that having AI is really not going to destroy your life, but also it can actually help children or you to automate things, to learn better, because the future is going to be so different than what it is today. And what I can see is gradually children can have ROYBI and take it with them at school or anywhere they go and be able to really enjoy learning, especially by playing. So I would say that that's the biggest challenge, but it's going to take time.
That's so interesting to me because I come from a little bit of a product background, and people usually, in my experience, they cling on to one buzzword, and that's usually that all is six in their mind. So it's so interesting that, AI is a tool, obviously, and it's not going to be something that takes over the world like you see in movies. So that's really cool. So let me ask
you say that it's really interesting. There's a new show on Netflix apparently called Black Mirror. I think I haven't had chance to actually watch it, but we had people saying, "Oh, ROYBI is like Black Mirror; is going to take over everything." We're like, no, it's not even the same concept. It's so different, and it's just there to help. But it's really hard for people to understand that right now. But it's going to change.
Oh, I'm sure. I think we already see a shift in that direction. So that's great. Let me ask you this. I think I've seen some stuff in the news as well about some funding that you guys have had going on, some successes in that department. So what all do you have going on in what's the status of your funding right now?
Yes, we closed our seed round for $4.2 million in July, which is super exciting. I still get excited every time I talk about it. It's going to help us for sure to expand. Of course, we just finished the first round of mass production. and it's going to help us to continue the production. As you can imagine, hardware is even more expensive than just having a software company. So it's a great opportunity, and also being able to invest in more talent around the world to make ROYBI better and better every day. It's not just the content or hardware; it's also the culture behind every language that we really want to implement into ROYBI.
That's great to hear. I love that answer, because nowadays it seems to be a recurring theme that the closing of a round of funding is great and newsworthy and something to be celebrated, but now it sounds like you're ready for the real work to begin, right?
Absolutely.
Just to scale and build your team and do all the great things you have as goals. And I guess with that being said, what are your short and long-term goals, and maybe where do you see the company being in about 5 years or so?
Definitely, I want to see every child have ROYBI Robot in their hands, regardless of where they are, the family's income status. We are truly here to change the world of children in their education, and we will take every necessary step and whatever it takes to make sure we see that happening. But in terms of the short-term plans, we are of course launching to the US and Canada this year. We actually started the shipment, starting with our crowdfunding campaign, and then we are launching with some retailers this year and also expanding next year. We will be also launching in UAE, which is quite interesting because it's a region that they pay a lot of attention in language learning, especially English language. So that's the next plan. And of course, as we move on next year, we would be looking into how we can expand ROYBI into classrooms. So we have some pilot plans going on. So hopefully we can gradually understand the classroom environment, the interaction, and we can grow our user base very soon.
That's fantastic. I just thought about this as well. So you had said that you and ROYBI were a semifinalist in 2018. Mm-hmm. A little bit about myself for a second is that my company that I've co-founded, Turbo Appeal, was runner-up in 2015. And then we actually had a successful exit in 2017. So I'm kind of laughing to myself hearing about this because, given the fact that your company was just, featured on the cover of Time magazine and, one of the upcoming startups and the best in the country for CNBC, and all the successes that you've had. And then we had some success. It seems like being a runner-up or a semifinalist in Startup of the Year is not a bad place to be, quite frankly. So, we wish you all the best of luck in that. And it sounds like you all have a good plan to move in the right direction. And so I know that a lot of our listeners are very interested in, starting up companies and growing earlier stage companies. So I would be remiss if I didn't ask you maybe some of your stories and some tips and pointers that you have for those that are that are founding companies or starting companies. Any do's and don'ts that you've run into, or maybe let's start with the biggest hurdle that you've encountered while starting your company.
Sure. Well, first of all, congratulations to you. It's amazing, and I'm really, really happy that what I heard.
Oh, sure.
It's definitely, the best place to start. And again, I remember when we went there, everybody was so helpful, so amazing. And even today, we are still in touch with the Start of the Year staff. So it's definitely an amazing experience. For the startup experience, I want to say that it wasn't easy at all. It takes a lot of time and effort, especially building the team behind it. And I always say, when you have the right team, anything is possible, with all the ups and downs. As long as you have the right team, right partners, you can just make anything happen. And I've been so lucky and fortunate to have an amazing co-founder team behind it in the US, China. And in terms of the troubles that we had, at least, is when we were doing fundraising, it was very difficult because it's first of all, it's a very new concept. So people were skeptical to really take the risk. But of course, now we have a couple of really amazing investors. And what I can say is, do not give up. If you really, really believe in your dream, continue moving forward. You're going to get a lot of rejections and negative feedback. Just take them as feedback. Do better and continue with your efforts. And definitely, it's going to pay off. And again, find the right team members, advisors, especially. We have really good advisors on the team, and find good mentors that they can really give you honest opinion.
Oh, definitely. There's nothing better than surrounding yourself with good people that can answer the questions when they come up if you don't necessarily have the answer. So that's something, those are words that I live by myself. So that's great. Let me ask you, is there any big customers or partners that you all have signed up recently that are going to be helping you all distribute your product?
I say we are starting with Amazon very soon. They've been really supportive. We are also part of their education accelerator, and they've been super supportive. So I'm really excited to partner with them soon and start on that front. Of course, there are more, but unfortunately, I can't say now because it still is in progress.
Sure.
But what I can say is next year is going to be really, really big for ROYBI. Already some partnerships lined up to start in the first quarter, and it's going to be super exciting, and you will hear more news from us.
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to hear about that. I look forward to that very much.
Thank you.
Let me ask you this. You just closed your seed round of over $4 million. What advice would you give to those founders out there that are looking to raise capital in the near future?
I would say it really takes time to find the right investor, and also be open to feedback, because that's how you can get better and better. Even I remember our own pitch deck and documents. I think we have 50 revisions, honestly, and just being able to listen to the feedback and going to many different meetings and asking people for help. It's okay. And I'd say it takes time. Don't get stuck on numbers or even high valuations. I hear so many stories. Even for us, it was very difficult, because as founders, we are so passionate for our startup, and investors have different opinion, which is fine. But you would gradually be able to have a mutual agreement and move forward. But what I can say is, just don't get stuck on numbers, and try to find the best deal for your company, because time is precious.
Definitely. Well, I'll tell you what, I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, and I'm so excited to keep an eye out for all of the great things that you and ROYBI are going to be doing here in the near future. So I can't thank you enough. And at this time, what we like to do is kind of turn things over to you, and would like to let our listeners know the best place where they can find more information about you or your company or anything really that you have to plug. So I'm going to kick it over to you, and feel free to let everybody know where to find out more information.
Thank you. For more information, you can go to our website. That is ROYBIRobot.com. It's ROYBI robot.com. We are also live on Indiegogo, and soon we will be on Amazon. So give us some love and support. And I also want to thank you for your time today. The Established team, Startup of the Year team. You guys are amazing. So much support, and thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Elnaz, and best of luck in the future. I'm sure we'll run into each other soon.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, John, that was great. Thanks so much, Elnaz. Really interesting stuff with ROYBI. Seems like she's blazing a path, and it'll be exciting to continue to watch her with that ROYBI and what she's up to. So thanks so much for joining. Before we depart here, I wanted to hear a word from about our sponsor, American Airlines. They're a big partner of ours. We couldn't get where we're going without their support. So let's listen into a little bit about AA's Business Extra program. With American Airlines, you can give your company's travel budget a lift. American Airlines Business Extra is a rewards program for companies that can help get the most out of your travel budget. It's free to join with no minimum flight or spend commitments. The more you fly with American Airlines and their partners, the more Business Extra points you earn. Points can be redeemed for round-trip flights, cabin upgrades, Advantage Gold status, Admiral Club memberships or passes, and your employees can continue to earn Advantage miles and your company earns Business Extra points at the same time. It's a win-win. Doesn't your business deserve something extra? All right. Couldn't do it without the support of American Airlines. I hope you enjoyed this special episode and interview with one of our startups from our program. Check out startupoftheyear.com and some of our programs out there. And if you aren't getting the daily deal flow, definitely want to subscribe. We're sending a startup a day to your inbox, all of which are looking for funding, and we're trying to help better connect investors with early stage startups. So check it out at soty.link/DD. Thanks again for following along and listening. Hope you had a great day, and please check us out on our next episode. Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening to the Startup of the Year podcast. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll be back with another episode soon.